And because of COVID and the staffing and everything that was going on, I really needed to be in the stores. And
Mm.
so that, but I needed to be in the office with all the administrative stuff and so forth, or at home with the kids on their schoolwork, making sure that they were on Zoom. So for me, it was like, oh, I can't be everywhere at every time. And nor did I want to be everywhere, nor did I don't, I'm good at certain things. I'm not good at certain things. Calendar management systems out there in AI. There's email assistants out there in AI. There's copywriting and so forth out there in AI.
Mm.
But you still want it to be, you will still need that human touch.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. Do you have time to vet, to place, to interview, to train, to get upskill them, and to keep up with them and support? If you do, then go direct. But most entrepreneurs are overwhelmed as it is. And this is just adding a thing to your list and not detecting from your list.
Hello, team. Welcome to this week's episode. I've got a question for you. How many times have you ended your day feeling exhausted? It's been a busy day, but you feel like you didn't actually move your most important goals forward. You're caught in a cycle of administrative tasks, endless emails, probably meetings as well, operational details. And this is so often the tyranny of trying to do it all yourself, particularly for us entrepreneurs. It's probably the single biggest bottleneck for ambitious entrepreneurs. So, what if the secret to winning this battle isn't about working harder, but delegating smarter? And I know that, Jenny, you're probably thinking, yes, I'm on board with that. But our conversation today is all about how to break the cycle and unlock your highest level of contribution by mastering the art of strategic outsourcing. And so here today to help us work our way through that challenge is Jana Franklin, a serial entrepreneur and the founder of CEO Concierge. You've built a career in solving that exact challenge, at least in the latter part of your career. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Welcome to the ET Project.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head as you're saying that because I can totally relate.
Yeah. I, I,
Total.
I'm still in that phase, by the way. So I
So,
know what it's like to feel that way. It's incredibly frustrating. But as we spoke the first time, there is a solution, and that's what we're going to be jumping around talking about today. So before we do it, let's have a look at your journey to getting to where you are today. I mean, it's quite fascinating. Serial entrepreneur, franchise expert, and that's of particular interest to me. So we'll come back to that. CEO, of course, and then on top of all that, you're a mum. So
yeah,
I'd love to hear a little bit about the journey, if you don't mind. Was there a catalyst to moving to where you are now with virtual assistants? Um, from the franchising business, hair salons? Was there a
yeah,
point? Yeah.
yes, there was. It was called COVID, right?
Okay.
No, it was called running myself ragged and overwhelm and not feeling like I was doing it all, but doing it all wrong. And in fairness, some of COVID contributed to that, but it was like the perfect storm, right? It was a I think when the kids had to be at home,
Yeah.
and that really I think set me on a different path. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I mean it came about because at the time I had a middle school boy and a grade school boy,
Mm.
and running two businesses at the time. So we had the hair salons, and
Mm.
which is a Fantastic Sam's franchise, and then we have Jimmy John's, which is a franchise as well as sandwich shops.
Yeah.
And I was running it all. My husband works full time. He is also a
Mm.
partner in the business, but he's not in the day to day. And so it was a perfect storm. The hair salons were in the state of Illinois, and they were shut down because they were not considered essential.
Yeah.
And the Jimmy Johns were considered essential, so they were still open. And because of COVID and the staffing and everything that was going on, I really needed to be in the stores. And
Mm.
so that, but I needed to be in the office with all the administrative stuff and so forth, or at home with the kids on their schoolwork, making sure that they were on Zoom. So for me, it was like, oh, I can't be everywhere at every time. And nor did I want to be everywhere, nor did
Mm.
I don't, I'm good at certain things. I'm not good at certain things. And it really said, okay, where can I get help?
Mhm.
And I really took the time to say, what do I like and what don't I like to do? Where, like, I enjoy being in the stores and training and just kind of having fun and talking and just engaging. And I think
Yeah.
you get more bang. I got more bang from that than I do sitting behind trying to figure out why my expenses are so high under a certain category of food. That is not my wheelhouse. And
Yeah.
so we went out and found virtual assistants that could
Mm.
support me doing the things that they like to do and they're good at versus the things that I don't like to do that I'm not good at. And so we are a perfect match because I feel like we're whole, right? It's a whole person that's doing the things I don't like, and I'm
Right.
doing the things I like. So it really allowed me to get more focused, more I mean, we did great during COVID. I know a lot of businesses can't say that. Well, let me rephrase that. The sandwich shops did great during COVID,
Yeah.
not the hair salons, obviously, for being closed. So
Right.
with that, and just bringing my virtual assistant on, I just was like, took a deep breath. I could take a deep breath, and I was like, okay, there's something here. There's something
Mm.
here to this. And so with that, and talking to another group of women, business owners, entrepreneurs, mothers, they all had virtual assistants. They were all bringing virtual assistants on.
Right.
And we're like, okay, we're on to something here.
Okay.
So that's how we launched CEO Concierge. Because of being an entrepreneur, being a woman, being a mom, being a daughter, being a sister, being a community person, like, you just can't do it all. You can't. And I think that entrepreneurs, we're controlling, right?
Yeah.
Where we want to have our hands in everything, but at the end of the day, we're never going to grow and be successful if we do have our hands in everything. And so you have to have help.
You opened the door there to a number of tangents we could go down. Bef-
Yeah.
bef- Before we get too deep into it, as we spoke about before we hit record, when we talk about virtual assistants, we could be talking about two different streams of assistants, right? We could be
Yeah.
talking about the AI digital version versus the outsourcing human version. In your case, we're talking about the latter.
Yes.
Correct. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Our virtual assistants at CEO Concierge are in the Philippines.
Okay.
Um, love my Filipino VAs. They are awesome. Um, Outsourcing is the second largest industry in the Philippines. I mean, that's huge if you think about it. And
Yes.
it's human outsourcing. Yeah, AI sourcing is coming, right? Fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And you have to embrace it. You have to embrace it and utilize it how you utilize a VA or how you're utilizing whatever else you're using. Just, I call it the shortcuts, right? What's my shortcut? It's not going
Right.
to do all the work for you, but it can help your productivity and it can
Mm.
help your efficiency. To me, is the two biggest things. I'm not a good starter. Like, if you said to me, Wayne, hey, Jana, I need you to come up with a strategic plan on da 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 da. I'd be like, okay, I'd sit there for probably half a day trying to figure that out, right?
Right.
So for me to go into chat GPT or any of the AI tools, I'm putting that in and it's starting that process for me to get my
Mhm.
brain to like filing on all cylinders. I think it's
Yeah.
the same way for the virtual assistants and the AI. It is, yes, it has definite pluses. It has
For sure.
probably like, it has negatives too, right? It's going to get to the point where we're not thinking for ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
But I think for us, our virtual assistants have to embrace it. We need to know what we can utilize it for and help with it, so we can be almost super VAs
Mhm.
on steroids with AI. We also need to know the implications and how it's going to disrupt our industry.
Right.
And yeah, it's already there. I'm already seeing AI assistants coming across, social media and advertisements and so forth. But I do think that you have to build it. It has to learn you as a client, and so forth, just like a regular person.
Yeah.
But it's not going to do some of the things that you need a human to do. And I
Mhm.
mean, I can just think of the stuff my virtual assistant's done for me in the last 2 weeks alone that a AI could not do. And
Yeah.
what I mean, like making phone calls, sending in, uh, talking to customers on problems. Like my virtual assistants handle my customer complaints and my customer praises.
Right.
My
Right.
virtual assistants handle vendor quotes and bids. I don't know how AI can handle that without feeling on the customer end disconnected. I
Yeah.
think eventually that will come as a society. We will get used to being answered by, robots or whatever, but we're nowhere
Mhm.
close to that right now. So I
Yeah.
think that if you embrace it and you learn it and you know what you're up against, how you can utilize it to help you is only going to help everyone.
Yeah.
So there's calendar management systems out there in AI, there's email assistants out there in AI, there's copywriting and so forth out there in AI,
Mhm.
but you will still need that human touch.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key.
Right. I find there's always a lag anyway. So even if the technology may be available, um, is it available to the standard that we want? Maybe not. But even if it is it going to be something we can implement immediately? And traditionally, we tend to follow the process rather than lead the process with these types of things as a human society. So I'm with you. I think it'll be some time before we can say, okay, we no longer need the human. Everyone's familiar enough with the robots or the um, AI tools that they'll accept those. One of the things you use the word, and it resonates with me, control. So as entrepreneurs, we love to control.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that you also talk about intentional delegation, and my own experience is this was my hardest transition, was to be able to delegate the jobs that I needed to, the tasks that I needed to, rather than hold on to them. Um, and I'm wondering how much has owning a franchise helped you understand that process? Has there been any real connection between running a franchise, which is very system orientated, very structured? Um, has that helped with being able to delegate?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my husband would tell you I've always been a delegator. So, um, yes, I don't, yes, for delegation, but also yes, for systems and procedures. You buy a franchise because you're buying systems and procedures, right? I think that if there was two factors in me being able to launch and find and have CEO Concierge. And one, it was because I had a franchise business. I
Mm,
knew I when I bought a franchise business, I did not have the acumen of standard and systems and procedures. I
yeah,
worked at May Company, department stores until Federated bought us out. I was in management. I was a delegator there.
Mm.
But I did not really understand what it took behind the scenes to run a big company as far as systems and procedures
Yeah.
until I owned the franchise. So
Right.
when we launched CEO Concierge, I launched it. I feel like we launched it right because we launched with systems and procedures already
Mm.
in place or already in progress, building them. We launched with people in the right seats, in the right spots, versus throwing mud at the wall and hoping something sticks, which is what we did when we started the Jimmy Johns or the hair salons. Is I was drinking from a fountain hose or a fire hose, and it was it. But if it wasn't for those systems and procedures that those franchise had, we probably would have failed
Mm.
because it set the base for us. And so then it allowed me to be like, okay, one of the things that I really took away from owning the franchise, and I think it's even more prevalent today because you hear about, Gen Z and how, the workforce, generations change, right? Because you're dealing with I think right now we're dealing with the biggest widespread employment base of like 5 to 6 generations. So you're
Yeah.
dealing with baby boomers still in the workforce, but you're also dealing with Gen Zers, Gen Alphas in the workforce. And so
Yeah.
it's like every generation is different. So for me to delegate to the baby boomer is different than me to delegate to a Gen Zer. And
Yes.
so one of the things I took was something, you show them how to do it, you tell them the
Yeah.
why, you have them do it, and then you check it, right? So we could say show, tell, do, review.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that I took from owning the franchises that
Mm.
they talked about in basically into anything I do anymore, even talking to my Gen Alpha, my Gen Z or my household,
Yes.
and my husband who's a baby boomer, right? So it's like it's really, yeah, it helps with the delegation. It helps with framing how you're approaching an employee because of
Mm.
where they're at in their journey versus where I'm at in my journey.
Right. Right. I love this concept because I'm an avid believer in, well, let me step back. I mean, I love Michael Gerber's E-Myth series, where he talks about the value of entrepreneurs understanding the need to build businesses as if they were a franchise so that they can be scaled in the future. And why? Because of the systems, the processes, the structure, the disciplines that are inherent under that franchise model. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's essentially what you're also saying, right? Is it brings that discipline and it makes it easier, therefore, for people to understand what's expected when you delegate.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, integrity plays a lot into that, right?
Right.
Which is a core value for me and has been, for years and years and years and years. Most of my adult life. But I would say that, you say you're going to do something, you better do it, right?
Right.
If you make a deal, like these are some of the Jimmy John's things that you make a deal, you keep a deal. If you're going to change the deal, you got to
Yeah.
go to the person that you made the deal with, right? It 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 almost comes into play, like I hate to use the word conflict resolution, but
Yeah.
it's like how do you process things and how do you stay um true to yourself, but also making sure that your company is staying on track and that you're saying and doing what you said you're going to do. And that, I think, a lot of times is it's easier to do because of the systems and procedures, because of the way that you have set yourself up to run a company. I've tried to start other companies
Yeah.
um when I've had an idea, and 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 I I think about the one, and I did not go at it with the same intentionality that I did with CEO. And I think
Mhm.
that's probably part of the reason it was easy to close. It was easy to shut it down because I didn't have that stuff set in place. And I didn't have the buy-ins. I didn't have the
Mhm.
buy-in of the group either. So I think that makes a huge difference for everything is the systems and procedures. And that's what we talk about. I mean, that's where it goes back to the virtual assistants. And if you're flying by the seat of your pants and I think of that game if in the States, it's at like Chuck E. Cheese and it pops up and you're hitting them with a hammer, right?
We,
And
we call it whack-a-mole.
yeah, whack-a-mole. That's what
Whack-a-mole.
it right. So entrepreneurs sometimes act like whack-a-moles. And I think if I because I didn't have those systems and procedures and I didn't have some of the intentionality going into my companies, then I'm a whack-a-mole.
Mhm.
And that's why for me, the perfect storm, I was probably living in whack-a-mole land. And so for me, when it happened, it was able I was able to be like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
like this. I'm not good at this. Let's find someone who is. And so when I went to go match with my when I went to find my VA, I'm looking for strengths that are complementary to me and to my
Right.
personality.
Yeah.
And so that way they can carry it. They can carry the not the level of stress, but they can carry some of the sense of urgency that I
Mhm.
have. And that's, I think, key is like you want your team that you surround yourself with to have some of the same sense of urgency that
Yeah.
you do. But sometimes you don't want it to the level because you might be creating them off a cliff and they need to slow you down.
Yes. Yeah. Or vice versa, right? I mean, sometimes they have the expertise that you don't have, and you're trying to wing it, and it's slowing them down, right? So, yeah, very
Yes.
true, very true.
Yeah.
You mentioned values, and I read somewhere in preparing for our conversation that you'd witnessed many entrepreneurs where there was a maybe a lack of value alignment, and that they needed some support. What was the impact of that realization in driving your own businesses?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. That could go two ways. Um, for me, there's a level of discomfort,
Hmm.
right? All of a sudden, you're like trucking along, and then you're like, whoa, back up. Something's not right. Something's not jiving. And I could think like my team, my culture's great. I'm leading them right down. I'm leading them on the right path, and all of a sudden, but then something happens,
Yeah.
whether it's a sign or whatever, and it's just like I've ran smack into the wall, and so whether it's all of a sudden I'm experiencing turnover or like fight cash flow issues or something, it's like I'm not aligned and or my people are starting to quit or something is happening or they just have to sit me down and have a conversation with me that I'm out of that I'm overwhelmed. And so for me for me it's almost physical because I almost get a discomfort in my body. Like I'm like, something is not right. Something is stressing me
Mhm.
out and I can't figure it out what it is. And so for me, it's sitting down and figuring that out. So for me, it was, I am running myself ragged. I am not
Right.
happy. I am doing everything, not getting anything done. And my business isn't getting any better. Like it was just a constant, the hamster wheel. And it's
Yeah.
true. I think it's very, very true for entrepreneurs because we have that control issue. We want to be in control. We think that if we don't have, I mean, sorry, I shouldn't say we. I think that if I haven't checked that box or approved that it won't happen. And you gotta let go of some things. I can't do it all. And I'm not the best. I know that I'm not the best. And so for me, it really took like finding that once I had that support and they were in the right spot for
Mm.
me, it was like the light bulb turned on, because I was like, oh my God, I actually can sit down and work on strategy. Actually, I can work on why this area of this, why this particular store isn't functioning to the level of the other stores. I can get more nitty gritty in the
Yes.
details that I couldn't before, because I was running myself ragged, just dealing with problem after problem after problem after problem, email after email. Right. And so for me, bringing my VA in, it allowed for me, for her to do the stuff that was dragging me down, that was not good at, or that just was very time consuming.
Mm.
So that, but it didn't need to be me, right? It doesn't need
Right.
to be me. So it doesn't need to be you doing everything. You're strong at certain things and other people are strong at certain things. It's no different than having a bookkeeper, because I'm not good at numbers. I mean, I can do numbers, but I can't tell you how to do a journal entry in QuickBooks, right? So
Right.
it's really like, sit down, figure out what you like, what you love,
Yeah. Yeah.
what you hate doing. And if, like I say, Wayne, what have you thought about in the last 5 minutes that you're like, oh, I'm going to get off this podcast and I got to do this and this and this and this. Out of those things, what do you like? What do you just do because it's almost habit? Because, and then it's like, is that a good use of your time? And so so my father was an attorney. My
Yes.
mother was a CPA. They own their own practices. They billed by the hour, right?
Mm.
They knew their worth
Yep.
because of their billable hours. What is your worth as an entrepreneur? What is it, is it deliver, like for me, is it delivery driving today for this store because they had no drivers? Probably, because I want them to have the revenue. Is
Yeah.
it, I don't know, cleaning the grease trap? Probably not. Go hire someone to clean the grease trap, because that's not a good use of my time,
Yes.
because it's not helping. Yes, it's helping the store, but it's not financially helping the store. So for me, it really took like, what should I give up that someone else
Mm.
can do and doesn't mind doing it, And
Yeah.
so I think entrepreneurs really need to know what their worth is by hour,
Yeah.
because I think it's easier if you put it in if you put it that way, then you're like, no, I don't want to do that. No, I'm
No.
not going to do that. It's easier to say no when you know your worth too.
Absolutely. I was thinking of a couple of people while you were mentioning that say very much the same thing. One gentleman talks about his worth being more than spending 4 hours out there mowing his lawn every second Saturday type of thing. And the other undertone I'm picking up though is that you need a certain degree of self-awareness, and then you need that mindset shift to be able to say, okay, well now my self-worth isn't through this task, and I do need to make that shift, right? So you need that starting point almost, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, I mean, so I had a call a couple weeks ago with a potential client, and she was like, I know I need it. I just don't know how and why and where. And so
Right.
I talking about Chat GPT, right? I went into chat and I said, okay, this is my problem. This is what I need, but I don't know what it looks like, So I was talking about like a love hate form and all this stuff. And like,
Mm.
if I was to have a VA do this task versus me, what does that look like? So I was just playing with it in chat and trying to figure out how to come up with some type of form for this process. And it, and took about an hour, and I came to a final paper on it. But it's basically like, it's a love hate list. People will call it a pro con. I call it love
Yeah.
hate, because
Right.
it's like, I love to do this. I hate to do this. I love technology, but if you ask me to learn, so when you talk about AI, if you ask me to sit down and try and learn something on I have
Mm.
a roadblock. I cannot, if someone can show me how to do it and I can work through it like live with them, I'm good to go. But if you are going to teach me a class on it and I'm just watching a PowerPoint, I am never going to learn it. And so for me, I'm going off on tangent, but for me, I love it, but I don't want to learn it. So for me, my VA will learn a system and then teach me how to
Mm.
use it in like 10 to 30 minutes. And so that is that, that's great. She has the patience to do it and she likes to do it. And that's the difference, right? She wants to learn it. And so that's a perfect fit for us. It's a
Right.
good use of her time. And it's something that's going to make her and I more efficient in the future. So that that is kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about the love hate list. It's like, do you really love it? And are you
Yeah.
good at it? And then take the love list and the hate list and be like, okay, what can I delegate?
Mm.
And you know what? I guarantee you, you can delegate the whole hate part. You can delegate the whole hate part. You probably can delegate 50% of the love part too.
Yeah.
So and then that's where you've got to figure out like, okay, now I've done this. Now what am I going to do? Because then you're like, oh, I have all this free time.
Right.
But I
Well, that's
mean, it
true.
helps. But the key is it grows your business.
Yeah. The hardest part I found in that example that you just mentioned about now I have all this time is not diving back in and trying to take control back. Was to be able to say,
It's
okay, I'm going
so
to do
it's
something else and just let that be. How did you
yeah.
find, well, how do you find um, virtual teams, managing a virtual team versus the physical locations that you have with the Jimmy Johns and the hair salons? How do you deal with the dichotomy between the two approaches?
You know, so I we were in the hair salons for 20 years. We just sold
Right.
those in February. So we are not in those anymore, but we were in those for 20 years. I've been in the
Well,
Jimmy Johns for 15 years. So really kind of ingrained in that, right?
yeah.
So for me, this was for me, no offense to those teams. For me, this is a nice pivot because I oh because I had to be present. I have to be in the stores for them to see me. That was my mindset. For us to grow, they need to see the owners. And I'm still in the stores. I go in at least once a week if they don't need me to help.
Mm.
However, I it is because COVID brought around Zoom, right? You and I are Zooming right now. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. You're in Shanghai, right? So
Yep.
it has allowed for the world to get smaller and
Yeah.
for us to think globally for support and help. And so for me, it doesn't really even phase me that my team's virtual because
Mm.
I'm talking on Zoom. I'm talking to people on St. Louis on Zoom sometimes, you know?
Sure, sure,
So,
yeah,
and in fact, I probably communicate better or easier with my virtual team than I
yeah. Mm.
do my physical team because we do have all the tools, right? We have Humble, we have WhatsApp, we have Zoom, we have we don't text because I'm doing a lot. We're emailing. Whereas if I'm having to deal with one of my stores, I'm physically having to drive there because I'm not
Yeah.
tying up their phones. I have to make sure I'm not driving. I'm there during lunch rush unless I'm actually there to help because I need to be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
Or I have to make sure when I'm calling them or texting them, right? So, and it's a shorter window because when they're physically out of the store, I'm not bothering them. So I don't send a text message after their shifts. I send emails because they can see it whenever on their
Yeah.
time. But I don't bother my management team when they're off shifts
Mm.
because that's their time. Whereas in virtual land, I send an email and when they're on, they respond. If they're not on, they don't respond. So it's to me, it's very similar for me now because it's just the way of the world has gone, I guess. And
Right.
so it doesn't phase me. I know it phases other people. I know that that's a roadblock for them, but
Mm.
I also don't want to babysit staff. And so with me having physical stuff, I'm like, oh, it means I have to go in the office today because I got to go make sure they see me in the office today. Right. I'm doing this podcast from home right now because I couldn't get to my office in time. But
Yeah.
so it's just, for me, I don't feel the difference. They work my time zone. Um, I can, for the most part, get a hold of them
Hmm.
from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. My
Right.
VAs. I don't really want to talk to my VAs after 7 p.m. unless I have a problem, right? I don't want to talk to
Exactly.
anyone after 7 p.m. No offense.
One of the hot topics around the circles at the moment is proximity bias, meaning if you're not visible and not sitting beside the boss, the likelihood of being promoted is minimalized compared to somebody who is there. Have you had any experience like that, or is that something you're even conscious of as a leader?
I'm conscious of it. It doesn't affect me.
Mm,
Um, and maybe so I'm Gen Xer. So this is, I've looked into the generational thought process because
right.
I deal with so many different generations. I think that I don't like titles, and B, I'm just like, if you're doing your job and you're doing a good job and you're um like, I have a saying, at least in the stores, that if your name is talked about 3 times about an issue,
Yeah.
chances are you're not around for very long, right? So for me, like, no news is good news. And a person that puts their head down and doesn't get overwhelmed and puts their head down and does their job and goes above and beyond and is just pleasant and, just that, to me, I recognize so much faster than
Right.
someone that is, uh, you know, trying to get promoted. I don't know, trying to get promoted. I really believe in the Peter principle. I don't know if you know what that is. I think we have a tendency to promote people up and past their level of excellence.
Mhm.
So I'll use this as an example. Stylists, hairstylists are not necessarily good managers.
Right.
And we have a tendency, and even in Jimmy John's, I could tell you the same thing. I had a tendency early in my career to promote a good stylist into a manager. That doesn't translate
Mm,
at all because it's a totally different work
yeah.
uh, system. You're managing people versus being an artist, cutting people's hair, having a conversation, customer service interaction, right? Whereas management, you're managing your staff. It's not the same thing. And
Mm,
so I I think for me, it's like, it goes back to integrity. You say you're going to do it, you do it. You don't do it, it's like, okay, well. So for me, I'm aware of the promotional
right.
hierarchy, but at the same time, it's not something that affects me. And also,
Mm,
the other thing I would tell you is tenure doesn't affect me either. I
yeah.
I I think that people like, oh, I've been here a year, I should get a raise. Oh, I've been here 2 years, I should get a raise. Oh, I should get more vacation. Da 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 da. Okay, but are you an A player or are you a C player? Because
Mhm.
if you're an A player, you probably already have gotten those things,
Yeah.
right? If you're a C player, there's probably a reason you haven't gotten those things. So that's kind of how I try to approach it.
And if you are the A player, you're probably not focused on it anyway because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, because you're out there making the money, right? You're not focused on getting promoted.
Exactly, exactly. Let's dive in a little bit to the
Uh-huh.
actual business itself, the
Yeah.
concierge business. Um, you emphasize matching personalities and skills as
Mhm.
part of the process that you adopt. Can you step us through that a little bit, please?
Yeah. So I'm sure you have had bosses or people in your life that you just don't click with.
Mm,
And I so as a business owner, as a human being, personality is a lot that dictates the way you lead or how you manage or how you work. And so
Mhm.
personality assessment, personality fit is very important to us,
Yeah.
in addition to the skill sets. So you could have on paper all the skill sets, but you could be in like, with my personality, not a good fit. They could be a
Yes.
great fit for your personality, Wayne, but not mine. And
Mhm.
so, because, if you know a CRM, if you know HubSpot, then you probably are going to know higher level, right? CRMs are pretty easy to, once you know how to do a CRM, it's pretty easy to switch from CRM to CRM companies. There's always
Yeah.
nuances that takes you maybe a
Sure.
week to figure
Sure.
out.
Yeah.
But if you are a person that is very impatient and no detail, and this your VA is the same, you guys aren't going to get anything done and nothing's going to be documented,
Yeah.
right? So for me, and I use me as the example, my level of autonomy is very high. My level of detail is very low. I'm very impatient. I have a high sense of urgency, and I can take or leave working with people. I can work or it doesn't matter. So for me, my virtual assistant has to have a level of autonomy, because if they're asking me 1,000 questions, or if they're asking me the same question 6,000 ways, I'm just like, oh, okay. What are you not getting? Right. Like, it comes to me like they're not getting it, which is not the case. They just want to make sure they're being perfect. But for me, I have to have someone that has autonomy, has to have a sense of urgency, but patience, and has to have level of detail, because I
Mm.
don't. And so that's what we utilize that along all of our other assessments to find those match, to start with that match. So for example, I'm what's called an enterpriser. I just explained to you. So I would, if I was a client, we are going to say, okay, she's an enterpriser. Um, she needs these three personality assessments as a VA. So we're going to go out and we're going to go out and specifically look with
Mm.
after the skill sets found, after the experience is found and stuff. We're also going to look at the personality. We're not going to interview someone that's not going to connect with me at all. It's just a
Right.
waste of my time. And so it really helps us narrow it down, because to me, the fit is important. The fit is almost more important.
Mhm.
Key here, though, is, and this has happened to us, is the client hands the VA over to a direct report that's not the client's
Yeah.
personality. And then all of a sudden we have an issue because
Then
we're
you have
like,
an issue.
wait a minute, we matched your VA 6 months ago to you, and now are not you. So, so it really makes a huge difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah, oh, it does. It's surprising how often that particular scenario shows up in so many different businesses. Not matching the VA in this case, but so I come out of the construction industry, and exactly the same situation. We design a building for a specific application. The owner of the building sells it to another client or another buyer who has a different use for it, and all of a sudden the flow of the building, the infrastructure of the building doesn't work. Um, so it's you could apply it the same methodology or the same logic. So yeah, it shows up everywhere.
Well,
Yeah.
and I use it with our restaurant. I mean, I use it in our managements too. Like, I use it for our management, because I will be like, they come and interview in person, and they're like, they sound great, and then you get their personality assessment and you're like, yeah, I think they're going to show that way for maybe 2 to 3 months, and then they're going to revert back to their actual personality, and we're going to have issues. So, and
Yeah.
that's what I say to my two directors is like, you can hire this person, but here's what you're going to see down the road, and I break it down for them, and then I let them choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if they go down the road, I always just say, and then the problem arises that I usually call and say, I think I said that was going to happen 3 months ago, you know? And so,
Yeah.
so it's been eye-opening for everyone that we've encountered, because they, until they saw it and saw what a bad fit is versus a good fit, the click had to happen, right? The aha moment that had to happen. Because it was so an interesting tidbit is there is a personality trait that I just won't hire anymore. Because when we first started, the first three problems we had, they were all the same personality. And I was like, oh my, and so I went back to the personality chart, and started digging more through that. And I was like, this is why we're having problems. It's this particular personality that does not wield itself to be a virtual assistant. It just doesn't fit. It goes back to what you're saying about virtual versus live. I think there's that personality can't handle virtual. And so
Mm.
that is what it was really interesting. And so I just said, nope, we're not hiring anymore with that personality for virtual assistants. Now, that being said, I've hired 3 of those in my restaurants. Still to be determined if they'll if they'll stick around, but we'll see.
There's another element that I know myself in bringing a virtual assistant on, and that is how to bring them up to speed in the shortest amount of time. Do you actually take on that role or that task when you're hiring for a client?
Yes, we try to as much as the client will let us.
Right.
So that being said, we do a ton of training and a ton of upskilling. That is our between our hiring and strict recruiting process to our training process and upskilling. That's where I think we differ a little bit more
Mm.
is so if you are using HubSpot for your CRM and you're using Asana and platforms or whatever, we're going to go out and try and find someone with the personality fit, but also with those skill sets. So they're already a step ahead
Right.
of that. So when they step into that role with their client, they can be that sponge on the actual company information because they already know how to do that other stuff. That
Mhm.
client is not having to spend any time with them on learning Asana or any database. They're not learning that. What they're learning when they're with the client is the client's culture and how they do things.
Right.
We, if the client will share like their learning management tools or anything like that, we will go through and do that with them during training.
Mhm.
The other thing that a lot of our clients don't have that we talked about earlier is SOPs. So really talking with the VAs when they're first going in, if they are learning stuff from their client and there's no SOP, they are building an SOP for that client as they're learning it. So
Yeah.
they're already adding value by creating policies and procedures for their client
Yeah.
as they are learning it. What I love about that I have encountered with my staff in the Philippines is they love to learn. So, for example, I had a conversation with a VA about um, learning a particular platform,
Mhm.
and they just took it on their took it on themselves to learn and to go out and research it, and then sent me a sheet on it, and I was like, okay, I didn't even ask for this. But they were like, yeah, but I want to upskill. I want to keep learning. So I have noticed, at least with my team in the Philippines, that they want to keep educating themselves and grow. And to
Yeah.
me, that is huge. That is huge. Um, because it's only going to add to me. When they learn something, then they teach me. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I didn't know that. So,
Right.
I mean, that's where it goes back to the AI stuff. It's like
Mm.
they have to constantly be upskilling. And so we do a ton of upskilling for our team.
Cool.
But
I
yes, there is a learning curve. I mean, I think there is a misconception that
mm.
people, what VAs are going to come in and know how to deal with the company. If the
Yeah.
client hasn't given us anything about their company, then it's going to be hard to do that, right? I, I know something about Excel, but I could never go work at Microsoft.
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you've answered a number of the reasons why to this next question, which I've been mulling over since we first connected. Why would I come to you and ask CEO Concierge to find me a VA versus going out myself
Yeah.
and going to a freelance platform and I won't mention names, but finding one myself. Yeah, you've mentioned a couple of the reasons which are very powerful. Do you have a punch list of points that you would answer that question?
Well, I actually don't have a punch list, but I probably should create an actual physical punch list. But um, I mean, a couple of things, one, an agency's vetting your clients for, or sorry, vetting the candidates for you and giving you the
Right.
support and the training. Um, you know, you don't know what you're getting, quite
Mm.
frankly. Either way, you don't know what you're getting. But because we're taking the personality into account, because we're taking the education into account
Mm.
and the processes and all the assessments we have into play, your fit for the most part is going to be a stronger fit than you doing it on your own. However, going back, so that could be a whole different, going back to knowing your worth. Is it your time? Do you have time to vet, to place, to interview, to train, to get upscale them and to keep up with them and support? If you do, then go direct. But most entrepreneurs are overwhelmed as it is. And this is just adding a thing to your list and not detecting from your list. So, what I would say is an agency is going to help support and upskill your VA and support the client. We support the
Right.
clients. I have been on numerous calls with clients about, I get a lot of emails about, I don't know what to give my VA. I don't know what they should do. And I immediately try and respond because I'm like, okay, what did you just think about in the last 5 minutes? Give it to your VA, right? I mean, like I was with I have a friend that's a client and she's in Ohio, I'm in Missouri, but she says to me all the time, I don't know how to delegate to her. I don't know how to tell her what to do and da da da. And I'm just like, you know what? How about this? So she has WhatsApp. They do WhatsApp. My friend just talks to WhatsApp and sends it to her VA. And then her VA takes it and is like, okay, I know what to do. Because my friend doesn't know how to delegate. She comes up with great ideas and everything, and she has a conscious stream of what she needs to do. But she's like, I don't know how to tell my VA to do it. And I'm like, just record it as you're thinking of it and send it to her. And that's what she does. And
Yeah.
so there's a level of support and a level of upskilling. When you go direct, it's you. It's you. And so it goes back to knowing your worth. And the other thing is for us, I am a Philippines entity.
Hmm.
I give my team benefits. That's very important for me. And so when you're going direct, you're dealing with independent contractors. And so they can quit and leave you very quickly.
Yeah.
And they're not getting benefits. And for me, like for me, it's about work-life harmony for everyone.
Mm.
And I want to be able to support the virtual assistants and grow them as well. So
Right.
that's part of it. I think a lot of people also think that going to an agency is more expensive, and it's not necessarily
Yeah.
because you have to go back again and figure out what your time's worth. Because if you're doing all the work and you're having to take away from what's actually growing your business, it's probably not worth it.
Comes back to that self-awareness of your self-worth and really capturing how much time it is taking. We have a lot of business owners listening as the audience, a lot of leaders. What would be a couple of steps they could take coming out of this conversation? They're overwhelmed. They're considering their first VA. Are there a couple of key things that they can start to do immediately that's going to help them move forward?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost is really take 30 minutes, use your phone recorder, use a piece of paper, use chat. I don't know what you to use, but sit down and really be like, what am I where am I really spending my time and what am I getting from it? So, for example, me working on any type of insurance audits is a complete waste of my time because it's
Mhm.
so cumbersome and I have to do them every year, workers' comp audits, everything, right? And so it and it's so cumbersome and I'm usually having to email 6 different people to get the information anyways. So for me, I was like, that is on my VAs. Like, I'm like, here's the email, run with it. And they'll ask me like 2 questions and they're done. It's done and submitted, right?
Yep.
So it's really sitting down and figuring out where you're wasting your time,
Yeah.
where you are finding that you're getting angry and frustrated very easily, because that to me is like not a good feeling. And why would you want to live in that? And where do you want to spend your time? Is it with your kids? Is it with volunteering? Is it, in your store? I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, and you're not growing your business and you're on that wheel, something is not working. And so you've got to figure that out. Like, you've got to figure out your self-worth and you've got to figure out where you're spending your time. And then it's really like, okay, what do if after you feel like, okay, I knew that I'd rather be in my stores having fun and playing in versus doing payroll or anything administrative. I hate getting quotes, which I get 3 quotes to everything I do. So for me, it's like that is a complete waste of my time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to offload all this and I'm going to go have time, 10 to 1 every day to go into my stores. If I want to. That was the key, if I want to. So that allowed me to do that because I got rid of the stuff that I did not like or I'm not good at. And I'm spending the time on things that I like and that I'm good at. And that's
Mhm.
important because my business has never been better. And I am not in it as much. And so, like, then I think here's a question to ask yourself then. Am I'm the cog in the wheel and I'm the one holding this up because I'm micromanaging.
Yep.
And so that was like, okay, guess what? It's still running and it's actually running better because of where I'm spending my time and not. And so for me, that was really eye opening. So yes, I would say sit down and do your list and then really look at where you want to go and what you want to spend your time on and who can take over that list of what you don't want to spend time on. Chances are it's a virtual assistant. And chances are you're going to find someone that really wants to do those tasks. And then that's when you come to us and be like, okay, this is what I want. Or even if you don't know what you want, we can help you get there. Right. And
Yep.
that's kind of our process. And then we just, the other thing is we offer part-time. So
Okay.
20 hours a week, which is only 4 hours a day. So a
Yep.
lot of our clients are part-time and then roll into full-time because they've gotten their feet wet. They're like, okay, this is working. I'm ebb and flowing.
Yep.
Okay, I actually I need more hours. And so it's allowed them to ramp up. And then I have clients call and say, you know what, I'm ready to add another VA in this particular area. So
Mhm.
for me, what I did about a year and a half ago is I took my VAs and got them very niche in my Jimmy John's. So one is running payroll, one is doing all of the HR onboarding, all the paperwork, everything, and then one's doing recruiting, and
Mhm.
one's
Mhm.
doing bookkeeping, and
Yep.
one is my catch-all. So I have 5 VAs in my Jimmy John's helping us run that
Yep.
company. I
I'm not
mean,
surprised. I mean, it takes a team to do all these things, and I think in today's world, the VA, whether we call them VAs or EAs or
yeah.
um, you know, we have multiple outsourced teams working with us. So I'm a believer. One of the things that comes across to me listening to you is really we need to learn how to become effective delegators. At the end of the day, once we've got all those things in place that you mentioned, we have to be able to delegate. We have to be able to step away. Stop trying to do it all.
You don't have to do it all. Why?
Yeah.
Why? My husband would tell you I'm a nicer person now.
Look, it's a really, really interesting conversation. Unfortunately, I just looked at the clock and we're way over time. So we'll
Yeah.
we'll have to wrap it up. I apologize for that.
No, you're fine.
Where can people connect with you if they're interested in learning more about the services and following what you do?
Yeah. So of course on all social medias, I'm my email is Jana at JANA at CEOconcierge.com, or just, ping us on CEOconcierge.com. And all of our information's out there. And I do all the discovery calls with clients. I love talking with entrepreneurs, and I love just all the business ideas that are out there, and just everything, that makes the world go around. So that's the best way to contact me, and usually I respond. So
We'll
um,
definitely link in the show notes to where people can get hold of you. Um, Jenna, really interesting conversation. Thanks. Learned a lot
yep.
myself. Lots of insights, lots of tips. So really appreciate that, and great having you on the ET project.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate it.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.